If you could. So, first of all, thank you to Martin for the great overview. In fact, you stole some of the information I was going to be sharing, but that's the way things are. Just a bit of, while they get up the slide, my name is Tim Smythe. I'm the CEO of an investment fund and transaction advisory business called 1 Degree South. I've been here in Kenya 16 years, before that in Asia for 17 years. So effectively the mention of the Global South that Martin mentioned, the opportunities, well, I wouldn't be anywhere else, nor would my family, than where we are right here in Kenya today. And one of our sectors of focus is the energy sector and the transition that the energy sector is going through. So if we just go through the first slide. I'm just going to give a very, very specific view on the sector, and that's really the investor's view. You know, personally, as 1 Degree South, we're a little bit of a hybrid and a bit of a strange animal. We cover lots of services in the investment space, but really we're really focused on maximising the interest, the strategy and the growth trajectory of our partners and investees. So that means we spend a lot of time structuring projects, getting them ready for bankability for our investment groups to make the investments. And when we look at those investments, we don't come with a one-size-fits-all approach. It's really about what potential does the opportunity present, and then we structure the right type of funding and assistance around that. We don't come to you and say, okay, we can only work within a 3 to 5 year window. We've got projects that are 6 months. We've got projects that are 16 years. So in that, and we also don't say we've only got a $5 million or $2 million check to give you. Projects we're working on now are $70, $80, $100 million investment into the sector. So really we take a flexible approach, and we think that's a sensible approach because, as Martin mentioned, the energy sector writ large is in transition. So it's no point having a square peg round hole approach. So go to the next slide. When we look at the Kenyan energy sector, and we've been looking at that with some key partners, including POAC, and I want to applaud the work they're doing in the marketplace. Really the biggest challenge we see from an investment perspective is fragmentation. If you look at just POAC as an organization, 300 companies, for example, operating across the value chain: importers, storage, distribution, wholesalers, retailer. So from an investor perspective, where do we start? How do we pick winners? How do we know that quote unquote winner is going to be the right one? So fragmentation is a big, big challenge, not only the energy sector, but in many sectors, because really what we are looking at as funders, and we represent our funders' interests, is how can we scale those businesses? And what is the opportunity, and are they fit for now, and are they fit for the future? So the fragmentation is a big, big challenge in the sector, but it can be overcome, very much so. And how we overcome that is really about the parameters we work within. So next slide, thanks. Next slide. Yeah. So the signposts of where we should be focusing the investment dollars are already here. We know that the grid is fundamentally green. 85% of energy generation is green. And there's been a lot of investment in that space. Geothermal, hydro, wind, solar, etc. So there's actually not a lot of headroom possible for investors in that space when we're going from 89 or 85 to 90 to 100%. And the government has recognised this and also identified in some of their policy papers that if you look at an emissions story, and Kenya is a leader in green energy on the continent and in many places across the world, it's really within transport and industry are the target sectors that the government is creating an enabling environment through policy, through regulation, through support for investment projects to tackle those two areas in which they see 95% of all emissions coming over the next 20 or 30 years. So this is also while it's a fragmented sector, many players in every subsector, the signposts and guidelines of where we should be investing and focusing our energies are pretty clear. Next. So I just wanted to talk, sorry, I have to go up one slide. No. There we go. Thanks. So obviously, if we look at take a transitional story, one of the first sectors that we were looking at, 18 months ago was, what is the right timing for Kenya's transition to EV? And what is required to make that happen? Now, of course, some recent data will show there's tremendous growth in like e-motorbikes and e-bikes, etc., but not much happening in passenger vehicles or commuter vehicles, such as buses, or in logistics and trucks, which are obviously the major emitters in the transport sector. So clearly, there's been really no fundamental charging infrastructure across the country, but we also know Kenya is a 95% import market for vehicles. So as all the global OEMs move in the next 5 to 10 years to EV, we know EV is the story. The question is, how do we make ourselves ready? So the prime opportunity for the sector players in the room and new investors into new investment opportunities is to establish a nationwide uniform national EV charging network. But having a plan is just exactly that, having a plan. You have to execute those plans. So if we are to address issues of fragmentation in the industry, it's our view, and we're free to debate this view with anybody in the room, it's our view that we need to start at the top apex organizations to help organize the sector. We go next slide. So what we've been doing the last 18 months is pulling together partnerships as a consortium for this project. First, foremost is POAC. Obviously, POAC, if you can just think of POAC as what they do is they fuel the country, in effect, having almost 70% of all fuel retail sites across the country. Of course, Shell and Total and Rubis, etc., are players in the market, but relatively small compared to the aggregated power of POAC. Another partner, which happy to have Albert in the room today, and he'll come up and make a few remarks in a moment, is that public transport sector is a prime area in which we can electrify, and some of his visionary leadership about what he wants to do with the Matatu Owners Association has brought them into the consortium, because we have 180,000 vehicles we can potentially replace with electric vehicles in that market. And obviously what Matatu Owners Association is, they move the country. So two of the partners, we have fueling the country and we are moving the country. And of course the third partnership there was with Moja EV, who have a relationship with, I think it's now about 10 OEMs out of China. So any type of vehicle that you would want, two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, 18-wheeler, etc., can be supplied and customized out of China and provide the EV charging equipment that be customized for the needs. And there's been lots of consultation. And there are other partners in the consortium who are active in the space, the E-Mobility Association, KEPSA, Ken Invest is supporting the project with the various government ministries, so on and so forth. So really to address the issue of fragmentation, starting with apex organizations that aggregate so many members and can aggregate the power of those members collectively rather than focusing on them individually, has been our approach to the design and imminent launch of this project. So if we go to the next slide. So it was we could only go to our funder groups when we had all these, moving parts together. A lot of planning has gone into it with the project partners. And I can tell you that in 2025, Kenya will be launching the first national EV charging network, not in one location, but nationwide. collaboration with the partners. Now this map here in pink is basically what we'd be doing in phase 1, which is 65 different sites, more than 300 chargers, main travel corridors, etc. And the first starting point there will be our collaboration with MOA and starting to electrify their fleet, to give not only the SACCUs who own the buses the economic efficiencies of EV vehicles, but also give all those commuters an EV travel experience as well. And that educates the market, exposes the market that EV is not coming, it is here. And that's what we're happy to talk to you about a little bit more over the rest of the session here. And we're happy to participate because we see this type of network and us investing in the long-term infrastructure. We have a long-term 15, 20-year view on building out this infrastructure. That many participants in this room, whether they be providers of technology services or fascia design of sites, it can also benefit existing players in the industry. Our objective is not to replace, our objective is to